Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time to start this year's Internet Forum lecture series, which is both for our students here in Aalto University, as well as this is a public lecture series what everybody can follow, either here in lecture hall in Otaniemi, as well as we are recording these all lectures and they can be followed via internet. And you can find the link in our site, Internet Forum in Aalto University's webpage. So, this autumn, our theme is to concentrate different aspects of digitalization. And as you have probably heard many times, it is said that everything that can be digitized will be digitized sooner or later. So when we are talking about digitalization, we are talking about huge impacts, both possibilities as well as threats to our societies, businesses, as well as to our daily lives. And that is the reason why we are concentrating on the digitalization and different aspects of it. One reason is also that in these topics we want to be a forerunner here in Aalto University, not thinking about only what is happening at the moment, but especially looking at the future as well. And that's why I am very happy to tell that we have excellent people to giving these lectures during this autumn. You will hear many different aspects of digitalization. For example, from the ethics and artificial intelligence point of view. For example, Chief Digital Officer of Finnair. She will come and tell about what is the digital business in Finnair today. We will be hearing about the data, we will be hearing about the cyber defense from the military perspective, and so on and so on. So I would say that there are many open questions in this digitalization, and the speed is accelerating at the moment, but I am sure that we are able to find at least some answers to these questions during this autumn in this public lecture series. So we will start with our own Chief Digital Officer here in Aalto University. I would say that, for example, 5 years ago, there weren't probably even not one organization in Finland, in business or public sector or academia, where there was this title, Chief Digital Officer. But nowadays you can find this title in many organizations. Also, in Aalto University. And I'm very happy that Kati Hagros, who is our Chief Digital Officer here in Aalto University, will start and give a lecture about the digital university, which means us here in Aalto University. So, Kati, very nice to have you here, and please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jarno, and very warm welcome also on my behalf. So I've been the Chief Digital Officer for this university now for exactly 3 years. So it was our previous president, Tuula Teeri, who hired me and said that, would you like to come back to your old alma mater? I studied here long time ago. And make digitalization happen also for the university. And I thought this is such a unique opportunity that I will take this role as the first CDO for the university. And I also told Tuula immediately that maybe I should also be the last one. Because I personally think that these chief digital officers should be kind of transformation leaders and digitalization should become business as usual. But it is a big transformation and sometimes you need people and roles driving it. So I'll tell you what I have learned. I have just industrial background. Before Aalto, I worked for 6 years as the CIO of Kone Corporation, so I have some background of that digitalization journey as well, and before that I worked for Nokia, so the kind of usual story. But let's see what I was planning to share with you today. A quick overview on what's Aalto's digitalization strategy, so you get hopefully the big picture and how do we understand digitalization here. And then some examples of what we have done so far in the middle of this journey. What is it in there for you as students, researchers, general public, etc. And of course, this is a tough place for me because you are all users of these services, so you know truly that whether I'm telling the truth or not. So don't be shy then to shout that that's not the case. Then some more general learnings on how to manage and lead digitalization, and this is based on my kind of overall experience. And then I have a bit more like a national vision, which I hope that we could all be taking forward, because I think this is a huge opportunity for Finland, that we start managing the learning and educational data in different ways going forward. But let's start with the kind of current strategy. This was approved roughly 2 years ago by the Aalto board. So I presented kind of the overall trends and background that, you know, many things happening and we should now take digitalization seriously, and the board agreed. And we actually set ourselves a very ambitious target that by 2022 we want to be a knowledge European leader in digitalization research and practice. Well, the research is the easy part. We actually are already. Many of our ICT disciplines, service design, etc., we already have a kind of world-class teaching here and research here, but then we wanted to look very seriously at, are we walking the talk? As a leading ICT university, is this the kind of experience you get walking in here? And I think we have quite many things to do before that. And these are some of the goals we have set ourselves. I've started with the students, because I think student success is the key driver for us, that we want digitalization to help to improve the student success and learning experience. We don't start with this kind of let's have everything online approach. We believe in blended learning, we believe in this beautiful campus, and we want students to be here, but not because they have to, but because they want to. And we can truly combine the best parts of kind of face-to-face learning as well as digital learning. And there's so much more we can do with this educational data. Digitalization is of course important for research as well, so there's a lot of discussion on open data, open research, and then how do we keep up with all these global developments, so this is one of our goals. Then we see also digitalization supporting our campus. We've been investing a lot into this beautiful campus, but I know it's still a bit hard to navigate here and find things, get accesses, make sure that you know how to meet the people, this big community we have here. So we need digitalization to support this campus experience, which helps then everybody to collaborate. And then we set ourselves also goals for our end-user services, different kinds of services you can get here on the campus, that they should be truly end-user driven and lean. And then finally, this last bullet was actually added by our current president, Ilkka Niemelä, who happens to be an AI professor. I'm quite lucky to have a boss who knows quite a lot about this topic. So he wanted to add this target for us, that we want to become a forerunner as a data-driven university, because none of the universities in the world has really captured this essence of data. If you look at any of these, how industries are changing or digitalization, many industries have done their journey already. If you think about media or music or banking, they're actually quite far ahead already in digitalization. Then we have some industries like retail, which is going to transformation through right now. Many manufacturing companies, industrial companies, you will be hearing the other cases. I think they have just entered this one. But typically, universities and higher education, they're seen as some of the last ones to do this. But maybe we want to show now the way that we are going to be the first ones in this league. So those are the targets. And then we've done a lot of strategizing work. You don't need to read all this. It just shows that we have a very holistic understanding of what is university digitalization. It's not just about online learning, or it's not just about open data. It's about all these areas. So we have divided the work into different kind of baskets. We talk about teaching and learning, research and innovations, campus, partnerships, services, and we want the different digitalization to happen in all these areas. And then we spend quite a lot of time thinking that what's this kind of must-do level, what do we need to kind of catch up with just to be relevant, to be able to stay in business, and then have another discussion on how to differentiate. Because we are still a kind of small or mid-sized university in global context. We cannot afford to do everything, so we need to be careful on where do we differentiate. And this has been a kind of one of the leading drivers for our road mapping, thinking through that what are these must-haves. And these are big things, like if you look at this campus area, we were just joking about this, is the audiovisual working and is the basic IT working and how are these things coming. So it requires a lot of investments to make these things work, but I don't think it will differentiate us. I don't think you come here because the AV is working, but maybe we have other areas. If we look at campus as a smart campus and truly kind of, let's see it as the most sustainable campus in the world, where we can utilize our digital skills to make the campus experience unique, there we can differentiate. So we've been going through this kind of discussions, and then it has led us to this kind of roadmap. And again, you're not supposed to read everything, but this has been one of my main messages, that we have lots to do. People tend to think sometimes that digitalization is just a project, a pilot, a little thing to do, but I would say it's a transformation across all the functions. And we've been going through this roadmap for the past 2 or 3 years and basically renewing everything we have had. We have had a lot of technology depth in the university, really using old applications from the 70s or 80s, and they were working maybe okay, but they are just not modern IT architecture. And if you want to reach that kind of goals, you need to start from the basics. You really need to build the basics right, so that the infrastructure is on the right level, you're able to share the data, you have the kind of enabling IT kind of layers in place, and then you can start building the actual applications and services. So this is why it's a heavy journey, and it's a big investment. So we've been actually spending every year like double our normal IT budget just for these new investments. And this was, of course, a big discussion in the university board, that can we afford this, and is this something we want to do? But we decided that yes, we need to be able to afford this, because this is the way to be competitive in the future. And another message is that this takes time. It's not just kind of one-time investment. We have a roadmap for this year, so it's full. I know already what we need to do, this many kind of major initiatives in order to reach that goal. So a lot of things to do. So what are then the practical examples? So this was a kind of management level discussion that, okay, we have an ambitious target and we need to set up some roadmaps, and then we start executing. What have we got out of this so far? Just some examples. So for students, this is a tricky area. We have a lot of dependencies. We have quite old systems, and some of them are national systems. So unfortunately, I can't control them on my own. I'd love to make everything more modern, but we are dependent on certain common national systems. But what we tried to do is to at least put some new layers on top of them, so that you can find courses more easily, you can find courses mobile, or you can give feedback on courses. So this kind of systems we've been able to build on top of the kind of current systems. Then we've been investing in electronic and automatic assessments. 3 years ago we didn't have almost anything on this front, and now we have a few exam rooms here where you can make, basically you could make 24/7 type of exams and make it digital, so making it much smoother to go through the exams and assessments. And then many of the teachers and courses have done a very good job in automating also some of these assessments. And then we'll be building some new facilities like this virtual reality hub, which is in the learning center, where you can try a bit more advanced ways how to use AR or VR in teaching, and how to make courses more interactive and that kind of things. So these are some of the things which are already visible for students. Then for researchers, there are actually quite a lot of services already available, but the typical problem is that the researchers can't find them. They don't know what's available. You know, how can I get help for my grant writing, or how can I get help for my publishing, or so forth. So we put a lot of effort on making these services available online. Another area where we have focused a lot is what we call a partner CRM. In this university, we have a lot of collaboration with different organizations, corporations, startups, different kind of coalitions and university partners, which is great. But then it's good if you could manage it a little bit better. So these are some typical questions that when like a department head will get a call from a company X, he would like to, or she would like to know quite a lot of things that, you know, who is coming, who are they, what have we done with them, do we have alumni working for them, have we had any projects, is there any money left for this and that topic. And this data used to be like all over the place, or mostly in professors' heads, or some closets or so forth. So we've now set up this kind of centralized CRM type of approach, how do we manage the partner data. And then also in the research area, this has been one of my favorite projects, is that we've been digitizing some physical objects. There were still like hundreds of kind of paper-based theses and objects in the university closets. And of course, we've had these big moves when the School of Business moved in and School of Arts moved in. That was a great opportunity to put them into digital format. And some of my favorites are these old architectural buildings, actually from the 1960s. They've been in the closets. So one architecture professor having a Aalto's drawings in his closet, and nobody could see it. And now we made them digitally available, and this, I think, is a great example of how to start with, because now everybody can see it, it's safe, and we can secure it, we can share it. Different kinds of researchers can use it. And then we also have some cost savings, because we don't need all these physical shelf spaces anymore. So a very practical digitalization project which has had a lot of benefits. And typically it's good to start with this kind of low-hanging fruits, because that gives you kind of faster way forward. Then some examples of what we have done for all the kind of staff and everybody here on the campus. We've been renewing our Aalto.fi. We used to have an inside intranet and internet, and this kind of internet thinking I think is quite old-fashioned, because it's the same content we want to share, and then people just want to have some different views that, of course, some staff can see some things that the general public cannot. But for example, news are meant for everybody, and many of our services are meant for everybody, so we want to put these things together, and this has been a really big effort, which still continues, so that we can have this kind of user-centric Aalto.fi. We've also renewed our HR platform. We're just taking into use a cloud-based solution called Workday, which is one of the global leading software. We are actually the first university in Europe who is taking that into use. And I'm very happy that our HR leader is also thinking at the old-fashioned way of managing paper employment forms, and everything was partly manual. We are now fully on a digital platform and can start managing these things much more efficiently. And then I have to take something from my own area, because I'm responsible for these IT services. We also need to do the virtualization of our own things. The history used to be IT classrooms. You needed to go to a special IT classrooms in order to use a special software in one place. And we'll be actually working hard so that we can truly make all that virtual, so that basically you can go to any place with your own laptop and use all available software what's available for Aalto. You don't need to go to that specific classroom anymore, and actually we don't have even, we are kind of getting down with the IT classrooms, because we believe in this kind of more bring your own device type of approach. So that has been a big effort. And also putting a lot of effort for making our services, again, more online, like having chat, virtual chat, etc. And then one more kind of example of the practical things I wanted to take up are our sustainability efforts. I think this is obviously a mega trend which we need to take all the time more seriously. And digitalization and sustainability fit very well together because we can help each other to reach the very same goals. So digitalization is helping a lot for these ways of working, going more digital. So we truly see this campus as one working area. We can be much more efficient on how we use the space and where do we have different services, and people can be mobile, and hopefully they can soon be here truly 24/7, and all these things are possible, which makes the campus much more energy efficient. And we can also start tracking on how different buildings are being used, etc., etc. So really have big visions together how to develop the eco-campus or the smart campus going forward. Then another important thing in IT is to make sure that the IT infrastructure needs to go green. I'm sure you all read about how much energy data centers consume. They are still not the biggest energy consumers, but it is a significant thing. So we also need to pay attention that kind of we buy and produce green IT in that sense, and that's part of our strategy. It's about recycling all possible devices and taking really good care of all these assets we have. And I still have some work to do when I'm walking across the classes, so if you happen to see a pile of old laptops somewhere, just let me know. We are supposed to recycle them and make sure that we are as green as possible also at this front. And then this last one, I believe that we need to make these sustainable topics much more visible. So that's something where we are working on right now, and I hope that maybe within a year or so we've been able to make it much more visible how you all can impact your kind of footprint and how to improve your sustainability here at campus. So I don't know yet how it will look like, but we are planning to make it more visible so that everybody can contribute to the sustainability efforts here at the campus. So those were some of the kind of examples on what we have done. But then if we move a little bit more to the helicopter, if and when you're in an organization where you need to start going through this digitalization journey, I'd like to share my learning on what's needed. And I actually have 10 points. I know we have some politicians who like 3 points, and then some politicians just want 1 point, but you can't make it with 1 point. But you can make it with these 10 points, so that I can guarantee. I have to start with the money. The first thing always you need is that you have resources. And it depends on what do you want to do. So if you start from this left-hand corner and you take, let's say, 20% of your IT budget, yes, you can do some process digitization. You can take these paper forms and digitize them or do some simple workflows. That's enough money for that work. If you want to really bring some new services online, you already need to double your investment. So I think you need 50% of your IT budget. If you truly want to create some new digital services and offerings, I think you need kind of 4 times more money, meaning that you need double your IT budget in order to get it going. And if you truly want to go for transformation, it might be 6 times the money. And I see still kind of in leadership being totally confused, thinking about that let's make a transformation and then the investment is like, one-time investment when you would actually need 6 times that investment. And this is based on kind of several organizations learning. So I think we need to have a serious discussion always in the management that what's our objective? And then of course the resources need to be equally aligned. Then you need to have this kind of good roadmap. So this was my example. It needs to be based on this kind of business processes and capabilities. It's not a technology roadmap, it's a business process roadmap. This is what kind of new business processes we need for our customers, for our end users, for our staff, whatever business we are in, and it needs to be quite long term if you want to have this fundamental change to happen. So this needs to be in place, not just individual projects. Then you need some clever people. who need to master enterprise architecture, data, technology, and security. I think you are probably, many of you studying some of these disciplines, and you will be hearing them, and these are truly, truly important disciplines. And they are quite difficult ones, so be nice to your IT colleagues. They have a hard life trying to cope with all these developments. And this picture here is a symbol that typically you're thinking that today IT vendors are selling this kind of dream world that let's just take this cloud service into use and badam, all your mobile devices will be connected and you don't have to do anything. Well, I can tell you as a CIO, it's never the case. All the real organizations, they have an IT environment like this mess here. You have all kinds of legacy systems, old systems, you know, hardwired and connected with old integrations, and then it's really difficult to make the transformation. And it's a flying machine in a way. You can't close it down. We all have a business to run. We have a university to run. I can't close all the old audits, even though I'd love to, but it's there and it needs to keep going. And that's why this transition from this spider web to this kind of modern cloud architecture, you need all these disciplines. You need people who truly know how to do the architecture work, data, select the right technologies, make sure that the security is there all the time, and you will be hearing more stories, I believe, also here. But these disciplines you absolutely need to master. That's my message. Okay, we are in number 4, user centricity. This is such an easy thing to say, that okay, let's be customer-focused and user-centric, but at least here in the university, this is a tough nut. Because many of our processes, when you go deeper into them, they are kind of administration. They're serving administration. If I'm asking that, why do we have this process? People are saying because we need to give a report to the Ministry of Education, or because somebody wants something in the finance department or HR department, but we are here not for administration, we are here for researchers and students. And then you should have always this thinking that what is it truly that the users need? And this is just an example that I think one good way to analyze the needs for researchers is just to study how they spend their time with. And this is a fairly recent study that they spend 35% of their time seeking for funding. It's not fun. I mean, 1/3 of their life just trying to get funding. They spend 28% publishing, which is a must-do, but again, that's not why they are here. And only 37% time is left for the actual research, or what they are supposed to do. So I think we have a clear user-centric message here, that what are we supposed to do? We should really minimize the time used for funding and publishing, and of course maximize the impact, so give them kind of analytical tools and supporting tools which can help finding the funding, making the applications, etc., making publishing more easy. And then for the actual research, we just help them to be more efficient in their own fields. And that's all we should be doing. We shouldn't be doing things for the administration or reporting purposes. That's just a kind of side note for that. User-centric thinking, especially important. Then number 5 is governance. This is a bit boring topic, but you always need this management alignment. It's very typical in the organization that you have these IT people, these IT solution owners and application and technology they have their own plan, and then we have the business functional heads and process owners having some kind of own plan. And then this old world that the business makes some specifications and hands into the IT people and says that code it, it's gone. You can't work like that. You have to just put these people together, and then of course you need to have the management structure so that which forces these people to work together. So it's like a matrix type of working or team-based, and all these roles need to be there as one set. Number 6 is that you need to learn how to use partners and ecosystems. And in this I would say that here are some examples of the partners Aalto is working with. There's a long history to work together with the universities and university coalitions, also these open data coalitions. This is quite easy for universities, but universities are not that used to working with IT suppliers, which of course in my previous life in corporate IT we work a lot. It's a true partnership with these IT providers, and that's quite new to university context. But the days are gone that we would be coding everything on our own. We need to use the best of breed technologies, and it can be done by IT suppliers or it can be startups, other key players. So I think it's important to keep eyes open for this. Then you need to manage your portfolio and projects. So on purpose I took something which is very old. There's a lot of discussion on Agile and DevOps and you name it, but still you need to manage your projects. And I think actually this project management is coming back as a discipline, because if you read the headlines that why are we failing in many IT investments, it's just simple bad project management. So things haven't been under control. It might be that everything is good and the design and the idea and the money is there, but then nobody is kind of able to do this plan, do, check, act. Kind of, are we going forward as planned? Are we able to keep costs under control? So, hugely important discipline. Then you need to have enough training and support. These are again some examples from Aalto IT, always underestimated, especially by IT people. They always think that when the solution is ready, they're like, whoa, whoa, bye-bye, I'll go for the next one. And we forgot that people need training and they need a lot of support, and we need to invest into that. And then you need to have a kind of good approach to change management. And the message here is that this is one of our associate professors, Arttu Polojärvi, who is from School of Engineering. He's the kind of dream guy. He's a true change agent, a leader. He's always ready to take everything new into use. So he's using one of these new light boards here and ready to make videos and so forth to support his teaching. So what we need to do is to lift up these people who are really showing the way and being kind of the change agents and examples for the community. But there it's always like 10% of them only, unfortunately. I'd love to have just Arttus in this world. So what do you do with the 70% of the rest? You need to have these simple, easier questions. You just go around asking these questions that do we really have to have these papers, and could we do this online, and could we do this remotely, and you know, where is our data, and what does an end user need? And I'm just going around saying that we should hate copy-paste. Every single copy-paste is a waste. Could we do something? You seem to be copy-pasting here. So try to find these easy steps for people to understand that digitalization is not just this my massive roadmap. It's just something pragmatic you can do with your daily life. So I think these kind of simple questions work for a big group of people as the change management leaders. And then you have this 10% of people who hate it and will never catch up, and my personal opinion that you just have to leave them behind. You can't listen them to too much, because otherwise the change will not happen. And number 10, then you start again. You might know this cycle. This is one of Gartner's hype cycles. So the technology keeps on evolving, and I don't think it will stop. It will not stop 2022. When my current strategy ends, there will be new technologies available. So again, it's a kind of difficult mentally that you will always need to restart. And it's like maintaining buildings or kind of road infrastructure. You need to be prepared for this continuous maintenance and renewal. So that's my kind of learning list. Love is not enough. It's at least 10 points. And I would claim that this is not kind of university-specific thing. It's a very generic list of capabilities you have to have in place in order to drive the digital transformation. But if you have this kind of competencies in place, so you have people who know how to set up these different ones, then it's not kind of, you said rocket science anymore. It's not that difficult. We can go it through, but it requires that all these things are aligned in the organization. Okay, and I promise to finalize while I'm thinking that if these things are right in the Aalto. I'm still waiting for the shouts that no way, it's not happening. Like share some thoughts on this, like more future looking, that how could the life look like for the universities. And I think, as I said, this is a huge opportunity for Finland especially, because we could be sharing our learning data in a safe and secure way, and we have a really good history as a kind of education country, where we know how to educate, starting from the small kids to the highest level, but I don't think we are kind of using that data yet. So this is the big opportunity. So we've been talking, and this is all kind of visioning type of discussion still, that what could be the learning vision and what are the opportunities if we think about learning as a whole. First of all, I think the learners should be kind of owning their learner data. I think we don't talk about learner data like we talk about health data. So this is not a data-driven business at all yet. And we're always complaining about health, that, is it efficient or not? But still I know something about my health. We all know that there are some key measures like blood pressure or weight, or we can do a lot of tests and then you can be guided to the right kind of direction. But we don't have any learner data, basically saying that what am I, how good I am, what's my kind of status as a learner, and what should I do next. So this kind of data doesn't exist at all at the moment, and I think I should be owning my own learner data at some point. And of course we talk a lot about lifelong learning. I should also be able to do this kind of flexible, personalized learning going forward. And again, this history that you have a heavy learning period from the age of 7 to 25, and then you are supposed to work for the next, 30, 40 years without having any new education. It's crazy, isn't it? If you think about how the society is evolving. So we need to get somehow this. It can't be this kind of tunnel and then you are ready. It needs to become much more modular and flexible, that how can I keep on kind of improving my learning and my knowledge and my skills, etc., throughout the whole life. Then I also think that this who is teaching us, who are the educators, should be opened up. So I would like to vision that we have this in the future, this kind of open learning ecosystem, because at the moment it's a bit crazy. In the universities we have similar kind of lectures given exactly at the same time in 15 different places in this small country, literally giving the same kind of lecture in accounting or any of the basics. And that's not very efficient. I probably think that one of those accounting teachers is a really guru, who actually would be worth listening to everybody in this country. So why can't we be sharing that one great teacher's content and teaching online, also on site, etc. I'll take 2 teachers, and why are we kind of wasting resources so that everybody keeps on doing the very same things with probably not optimal quality? So it's all about differentiation. It has happened in all other industries, that you become more focused on what are you doing yourself and what others can provide to you. So it would be this kind of open learning ecosystem. I think it would improve the quality, flexibility, diversity, productivity in the whole system. And again, digitalization makes this possible. Because of course, in the old world, you need to physically sit in Jyväskylä, your whole studies, but now we could be much more flexible in doing this. Then we should be taking blended learning and this kind of digital pedagogy in full use. We do a little bit of it, but still I think it's a very small thing here again. I'm coming back to this health area, where at least you have some basic information, what's good for me and what kind of personality and type I am, so that my kind of, I could be getting some coaching, and it doesn't need to be just face-to-face discussions, but all kind of digital support for how to improve my studies. Overall, university management and kind of decision-making should be more data-driven. Are we really getting the outputs we want? How do we measure our success? And then I also think that if we would have this learning data, this would be really good for research and innovations. Because we'd be really looking at this lifelong impact, that what are all the things you have learned in your life, and how to use that for different kinds of innovations, and how to study that. So I think we should have a much deeper understanding of the learning. So my kind of vision for Finland could be this, that we have this kind of shared learning data as a national asset, and then we could have a different views for that data. And here the comparison is that I've been actually quite expensive for Finland. I've been, educated very well, with the schooling and 2 university degrees, and still the kind of, they don't know anything about me. And they know actually quite a lot of my car. So in Finland we have a very good car registry. So my car has extremely detailed information, which is available, by the way, through open interfaces. So my car is in a very good health. I know the previous owners, if there are any. I know what kind of different parameters there are, how expensive it is, what can I do with it, when should I have my next check, etc. And all this data is available for different kinds of service providers so that they can provide services to me, and of course they're available for the government who can make political decisions that, let's have less diesel cars or whatever. So it's kind of quite well managed, I would think, that we utilize this car data. But what about me as a learner? This has been a much bigger investment, what I have, and I don't have any profile. I like to have my own profile, my interest, my skills, my competencies, my certificates, my educational plans, so that I can plan my kind of whole career. Then I think I would like to organizations could have this university offering, and of course employment resources, partnerships, services, that this view to the data. And then we would have this kind of international view at what's the data related to, how different sciences, industries, capabilities, innovations, ecosystems are coming to that one. So this would be kind of my national vision for this kind of sharing of data. So concluding on then where might we going? Actually, I believe hopefully quite soon as this digitalization goes forward. Again, I think this learning needs to become much more modular and personalized, so it's not the same course in the same sequence for everybody. More time and place independent. In research, things will also change because of the open research and open data. Nowadays, the researchers are still doing basically the whole process. One researcher collects the data and crunches it and analyzes it and makes visualization of it and then makes the kind of interpretation of it and writes the publication. Maybe there are in the future researchers who are much more focused on data gathering and kind of data analysis and visualization, and then you take different data sets and start combining, so that's another role. So I think this probably will change a little bit, so that it's not the individual researcher doing the whole value chain. Then I think the services will change, so we will have more virtual robot service providers here. The work will change. So this is, I think this is actually already happening here in the university. This is not just one place or organization or occupation. We are all already part of this ecosystem. So that's happening quite soon here in the university world. But then I think what will be interesting, and probably Jarno and some other speakers are better to talk about this, is that will we be kind of teaching just human beings here going forward, or will it be kind of machines or AI brains sitting here also listening to this educational topic? So who is it that we are going to educate going forward, and then also who are going to be the teachers here? And I have a 11-year-old girl, and I think in their school they already got their French robot teacher, because it's hard to get French teachers here in Finland, with the good pronunciation and all this. So now they have imported a robot from France, which obviously speaks perfect French and is extremely patient in teaching the little kids how to pronounce all the time, giving the feedback to the kids that, are you pronouncing the right way. So it's already a kind of assistant teacher for the French teacher. And I was like, wow. It's happening already, and I think it's only a good thing. This human teacher is very much needed, and he or she can truly concentrate on the interaction with the kid, trying to understand it and giving all the support and counseling and customization of that one, and then this routine task, when you need a lot of repetition in order to learn language, that can be done by this teacher robot. So I think it's a good example of that we can be using machines and AI much better going forward. So that's some of the views of the university, digital university and university digitalization going forward. Thank you very much. I don't know if there's kind of 1 minute time for if any questions or comments before Jarno
Please,
continues.
questions, comments to Kati.
Okay, the question was that our university is becoming obsolete. A great question. I think they are if they don't change. So coming back to all these points that we need to start thinking that the old role is just sticking to our old software engineering courses. If we do that, then we are definitely becoming obsolete, because I guess you're referring that it's so easy today to get the learning online or learn on the job, and all these things are happening. So I think we need to be understanding that you can get those competencies and skills somewhere else, but still I do believe that university has other things to do. Obviously we have the research part, so there is this fundamental need for truth. I think we need it more and more. So what's the kind of good way of doing, ethical way of doing software engineering, all that? I wouldn't like to leave that to the markets only. So I think we need to stick to that fundamental role, and maybe this accreditation and those are a bit of part of that, so that there are good ways and bad ways of doing these disciplines. And then I think we need to kind of focus on building the kind of more human side of it, like teaching the ethics, etc., creativity. So these kind of skills, leadership skills and others, so I think that they are becoming kind of bigger part of the education we are providing, and then you can have these perhaps more tactical skills from somewhere else. So long answer, I think it's a relevant one in that sense that some universities or some university modules might become obsolete, but the need for research, need for kind of fair data and so forth is not going to become obsolete. So that's the role I believe we will have. Am I keeping up with the, sorry, I didn't hear.
The roadmap set for 2022?
So what after that?
No, but like, is everything on time? Or?
Not everything is on time. It wasn't even the plan, so I made an ambitious plan, to be honest, knowing that you put it as the aspirational things. So not all projects are on time, but if I look at the big picture, kind of roughly on an annual basis, we have done what we have planned. So some projects are slipping, but the whole area is moving forward. So I think we're actually making pretty good progress. But things are also evolving, so this kind of 5-year plan in digital world is a bit of joke itself, because new technologies are coming, so the content is also changing. Mm-hmm. But if I look at the area which I'm not happy with is obviously the student experience. And as I said, we have so many national dependencies there, so there I'd like to make kind of, move faster, but it's not fully possible. Other areas I'm pretty happy with. Huge. So the question was that the learning vision, that's a very much working process, so don't quote me or think that this is yet a kind of national vision, but I'm trying to provoke the discussion also with you, because it's a big change. At the moment the learning data is very protected. We are actually forced to delete and destroy data, so I think the legislation is very much behind. This is like crazy when you apply to a university and you have to type in your information and we need to delete it, so when you apply to the next university or do something else, all this data is lost. And this is based on current legislation. So yes, there are these kind of obstacles, but I want to believe that we can also change the legislation. It has happened in other industries that people come to realize that we need to get these things into better shape. So I hope the pressure is there to change some of these political things. And of course, this whole area of what different universities are going to do is a highly political topic. So this is a tough field, but I think we need to keep on kind of striving for the right vision, because that's the right thing to do.
So what would you be your best guess at the moment, Kati, when we will have digitized professors in Aalto University?
Digitized?
Since everything is going to be digitized, when we are going to have digitized professors or even digitized CDO?
Oh yeah, okay, and I can make a nice kind of 3D hologram of you already, so you're welcome to come to the VR AR studio, so there you are digitized already, and I think you're doing a good job making your content already digitally available, so
yeah.
You're kind of doing that, but I still think we need you, as I explained with the robots, so some of your things will be more digitized, but then we still need the human interaction. But as I said, my job is to kind of make myself redundant as kind of digitalization officer, and I think there are other things to do. For example, now there are more and more chief data officers. Once you've done your digitalization, you really need to focus on how to leverage the data, so that might be the next job.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about already the next step, not only digitizing professors in Aalto University, but digitizing our students as well. Maybe in the future, you never know.
No, I want you to be here. I think we need to be blended, so being kind of both physical and digital at the same time, so that's the best thing for the well-being. Okay.
Sorry, so you presented a pie chart earlier. This pie chart gave us the notion of what a professor goes through when seeking for funding and doing the research and publishing papers. Basically, I would like to know, what do you think is responsible for this problem or this challenge that the professors are going through in seeking for funding, spending so much amount of their time, about 35%, when they should actually be spending much of that on the actual research, and what are the ways forward?
Well, tough question. If I understand the question, that who is responsible that the professor or researcher needs to spend so much time on doing kind of maybe non-value adding things, maybe the system is, it's just a kind of fact of life at the moment. And I think the best we can do is to start finding ways to help the professors that, how to make funding applications more efficient, or use analytics, because we spend a lot of time making funding applications which are never going to succeed. So actually we could use this kind of more predictive analytics, as we do in many other businesses, that don't even try for it, because we know already your success rate here and there. So this kind of data can help a lot. So maybe one part of the problem is that we haven't used the data intelligently. And of course, the world is going to be complex. There are many sources of funding, so that's not going to change. We need to just become very good at finding what are kind of our opportunities and how to capture that. And then we have work to do to making all tools more kind of user-friendly overall, because at the moment some of the tools are so that you just spend time trying to find things and so forth. I don't know who is responsible. I usually answer that question, that who is responsible, that I am. It's the best answer to any question, that at least I can do something about it. I didn't create the problem, but I can help to solve the problem. Okay, now
Excellent.
I need to get Jarno going.
Thank you very much, Kati. Great opening for this lecture series, talk about our own digital university, which is really proceeding, as we can all see. Hey, we will go forward, talking about the second most important human need, actually, in the digital world. You know the hierarchy of the Maslow. The most important need what us humans have is actually psychological needs, like food, water, shelter. Well, we have all of those. The second most basic human need is security. And when we are talking about the digitalization, from the business's point of view, academia point of view, society's point of view, or our daily lives point of view, this is going to be much, much more important. Talking about security in this digital world. Pretty often, actually, when people or documents are mentioning digital security, they are talking about the cyber security. But I like to prefer to use digital security because for me it tells better what we are actually talking about when we are talking about these issues. And if you want to tweet during this lecture series, we are using the hashtag Aalto Digi in the social media. So what this digital security means? I just heard from the news that the first snow this autumn came down in Sweden today. And when I'm thinking about the digitalization, I could compare it to the snow. It's coming down and it's going to be everywhere. Really everywhere. So if the digitalization is everywhere, I think we have to think about that the security of this digitalization and the digital world is and has to be everywhere. Sounds very simple principle, but in practice it's not. Pretty often when we are digitizing whatever, security seems to be like an afterthought. Maybe thought afterwards when something is done. When it should be as a first thought, taking into consideration whatever we are digitizing from the day one. And already when we are thinking about, for example, this country, Finland, which is the most digitized country in the European Union, according to the researches, Finland cannot be a successful or competitive welfare state if we are not taking care of our digital security. And that is more or less the situation in most of the countries on the globe already. So not only talking about the threats and risks, but more and more actually when we are talking about security, we are talking about competitive advantage to the businesses and societies. And when we are thinking about here in Finland, how our critical functions of this society are run by data communications and computers and actually by software, I think the right starting point when we are talking about digital security or cyber security is that actually we are already protecting our societies, businesses and our way of life when we are talking about digital security. That's the starting point. That's not the future. This is the starting point. But I think the most challenging thing in digital security comes here. What happens next? According to the researchers, I mean humans, we are developing technology in faster and in more radical way at the moment that we have never done in human history. And it seems to be that the development of the technology is accelerating when we are thinking about the near future. So we are not supposed to look at only the situation, what is happening at the moment, but trying to anticipate and understand the next step. For example, if I would have told you 5 years ago in this lecture series that there will be this kind of traffic signs in the city center of Helsinki, you probably have laughed. No, it can't be. These kind of traffic signs that you can't fly your drone. But nowadays when you go to Helsinki city center or in other cities, you can easily find these traffic signs. New ones. So my question to you is actually, because of the development of the technology, what kind of traffic signs we will have after 5 years from now on which seems to be quite funny at the moment. And that is the way how we should think about it. Any ideas? What kind of traffic signs we will have in Finland after 5 years, which we are not having at the moment? Okay, we will see. Please. Traffic signs, yeah. Or even traffic signs that denies that human can drive a car. Or traffic signs that only in this area human can drive a car. That's a good guess, I would say. Well, we will see. But anyway, every new technology what we are producing at the moment and innovations, for sure, those are bringing new security challenges. And in a longer perspective, when we are thinking about the situation at the moment, in this digital era, I think we have just passed the infancy of it. So we are now more or less leaving the dawn of the digitalization era. But I would say that when we are thinking about the future, the best way to anticipate it is to innovate it by ourselves. And that should be our goal, like Kati mentioned in her excellent presentation, our goal also here in Aalto University. We should create the future and innovate it. For sure, with credible and good partners to make these ecosystems. Because if we have now lived already the internet era, the next phase of this internet era is that literally everything is going to be connected to internet. So we are not talking about IoT anymore and the security of the Internet of Things. We should be talking about Internet of everything, including us humans will be connected to internet. Literally everything. When you are thinking about your devices here in this lecture hall or at your home, in your apartment, what would you say? How many of you have more than 3 different devices which are internet connected? Raise your hand. More than 3. 3 or more. 3 or more. Okay? 5 or more. Okay? 10 or more. Okay, so approximately I would say 3 to 5. Each one of us has already. So what is happening in this Internet of Everything? It means explosion of the data. And the importance of the data intelligence. How we are able to handle this huge amount of the data what we are having at the moment. And the key word in this whole development is actually connectivity. Connectivity in the whole world, and security should be everywhere. This is a huge trend when we are talking about the humankind and our activities on the earth. But on the other hand, I would like to challenge a little bit. When we keep repeating also in this lecture hall, in our governmental papers, in different speeches, that everything is really going to be digitized, what would you say? Are there some areas, especially from the security point of view, that should not be digitized? What would you say? Or should we digitize everything? Even Finnish sauna? What about the leadership? What about the love and affection? Those kind of questions. Well, actually in Finland, even if we are, I would say, forerunner in the digitalization, we did quite a remarkable decision last year that we are not digitizing our elections. This work group, I participated in the Ministry of Justice, we were looking pretty carefully about the different options for the e-voting or electric voting or internet voting. And this whole report, you can find it in the internet, 112 pages, can be summarized in this one sentence. At the moment, for e-voting, the risks are higher than the benefits. So even if we are more or less digitizing everything, we have decided that from the security point of view, we are not digitizing our elections. We are using the good old paper and pen. And if you ask me, that is a wise decision, what we have done. And when we are talking about digital security, I think one of the challenges even today in 2019 is that we too often start talking about technology or some technological details or some firewalls or some spams or something like that, technological details. Because this is very strategic as well as political nowadays. This picture is not from Star Trek. This is actually from EU summit almost 2 years ago. And just think about it. These head of states of the European Union, you can find the Emmanuel Macron, Angela Merkel, even Juha Sipilä in that picture. They gathered for 2 days to discuss about the cybersecurity. I was very honored to give a keynote to these people, and I was also very happy, not only that they are spending their precious time to think about the digital security issues and think about what kind of impacts from the threats point of view different digital hostile activities can have against the European Union. But also thinking about how we are able to create digital security as an enabler or added value component when we are thinking about the future of the digitized European Union. And the official plan is that the European Union wants to be a global forerunner in the next generation technology. And the plan is that the digital security should be integrated in this development from the day one. And don't get me wrong, for sure we need technological competence, understanding of the details. Without technology, there wouldn't be even this digital reality or digital security. But primarily, when we are talking about the digital security nowadays, we should start talking about and thinking about the strategic point of view. What are our goals in a bigger picture? How we are achieving those goals? And I would even like to add one more box above the strategic level, and that is the politics. And cyber politics, meaning that cyber is an important part of today's world politics, is going to be more and more important. But the challenge, to summarize it, is that too often people who are in the politics don't understand the technology or technical complexity. And vice versa. People who are working with the technology, they don't understand the policy challenges, what are affecting here. Seems to be pretty simple issue once again, but I would say this is one of the biggest challenges when we are thinking about the digital future as well as the digital security as well. How to meet technical competencies with political competencies and thinking about the common future together. And once again, this is not anymore from the world politics point of view, this is not anymore the future. This is happening already. For example, in NATO, from the military perspective, NATO has already declared, actually 5 years ago, that a severe cyber attack can activate the NATO's Article 5, common defense. And in many defense forces, cyberspace or digital space is called as a fifth domain. Land, sea, air, space, cyber. And that is one reason why we will be hearing about this cyber defense also from our military's point of view during this Internet Forum lecture series. And one issue in the world politics and more or less on daily basis when you are reading the newspapers, we are talking about the trust. To whom you can trust. And at the moment I think the hottest topic is the Huawei. But many other issues are happening also in the cyber world politics field at the moment. This is a pretty good example. Happened 2 months ago. You remember the situation when Iran shut down the US intelligence drone, and people in the United States, especially the White House, they weren't so happy about it. And they had to do something. They had to respond in some way. So what was the response to Iran from United States? They were thinking about the different options. For example, President Trump said openly that one option was the air bombing. And he was evaluating that probably if they would have conducted it, those air bombings, 150 people had died. But they choose differently. They launch cyber attacks against some intelligence teams or groups in Iran, and especially the rocket and missile launch systems to paralyze them. So that was one option in the political toolbox, how to respond, and that is how the United States responded with cyber attacks against Iran. Or we can think about this differently. This example, Israel recently said that okay, Hamas, and this is information coming from Israel, Hamas is launching cyber attacks against Israel. And like pretty often happens nowadays, they told this in social media, also for propaganda purposes. In Twitter, and they also showed this picture, that these cyber attacks done by Hamas are coming from this building. So what was Israel's response? To bomb that building down and share that video in the YouTube, which you can find there. So in this case, the actual response was physical response to digital attack. In the United States Iran case, it was digital response to physical attack. So these are happening. Or this would have sounded pretty amazing few years ago to hear about this kind of news what we are hearing at the moment. That there is a nation that is actually collecting money by stealing via cyber methods money from the different financial institutions or other instances. And this is from the latest United Nations report. North Korea has stolen approximately 2 billion euros using different cyber tools in order to collect money to their national budget and to use that to develop weapons of mass destruction. Sounds like a science fiction movie. Using cyber criminal tools, steal money, in order to get finance for their programs to develop these mass of destruction weapons. But this is happening. This is happening already. And when you are thinking about someday that you have a little bit stressful situation, I would say that then you should think about this guy. I would describe this as the most stressed work in the whole world. You really have to succeed in that case. When we are talking about the digital security and the future of it, we are talking about more and more, for example, in the international conferences, we are talking about the data security. Like I mentioned earlier, we are living in the middle of the data explosions. Of course, there are different evaluations what kind of explosion exactly this is going to be. But when you are thinking about those moderate numbers, you can really see that we are living in the explosion of the data. And in a way, I think this is a little bit hard way to say it, but in a way, I think we can say that who own the data or who will own the data will actually own the future. This table describes pretty well what is already happening. 10 years ago, on the right-hand side, 10 biggest companies in the whole world. What was their main asset for their business? In most cases, it was fossil fuels. 10 years ago. What about today or last year? What is the main asset for their business in most of the top 10 companies in the whole world? That's the data. Good to remember also when we are using these free, for example, Google or Facebook data services. Data is the fuel. Data is their business. And the more data they get, the better result they are getting. And then from the risks point of view, you know this triangle when we are talking about information security. We usually talk about integrity of the data, availability of the data, and the confidentiality of the data. What I have noticed recently, probably in the coming years, including here in Finland, the biggest challenge will not be that someone breaches into your systems and steals your data, or breaches into your systems and deletes your data, destroys your data, but manipulates it. Manipulate the content of the data. For example, in the worst scenario, in a way, here in Finland we have more or less digitized all our health records for Finns. I would say that would be pretty nasty situation if we observe one day that we can't trust that data, that someone has manipulated, for example, our blood group information in those information systems. And in the recent national threat assessment of the United States by their intelligence community, United States mentioned that one of the most important or most severe national security threats against the United States is nowadays data manipulation. Data manipulation. One other point, what is being emphasized more and more when we are talking about digital security and digitalization, is actually raising up at the moment pretty much. And Aleksi Kopponen, he will give a lecture about this topic a little bit later. But actually I was recently visiting this building, talking about their experts about these same issues what we are discussing here today. And it's always very interesting to hear and see what we are discussing and what we are not discussing. So what we were discussing was actually ethics. We were talking about more and more ethics and the importance of the ethics in digital security. Because we are little by little moving to the phase that we should not be discussing that what we can do with the technology, but what we should do with the technology. And what we should do with the technology, those are pretty much ethical questions. And ethical questions are going to be more and more also for those people who are working with the cybersecurity issues. How we are utilizing different capabilities for different purposes. We face pretty soon more and more important ethical questions. And of course we have to be open-minded. 3 years ago, not everybody was so happy when Mr. Trump was elected the President of the United States. And there were some speculations, for example in the Newsweek, that in the next presidential election, 2020, could the artificial intelligence be a candidate? And there were good arguments. This IBM Watson, good work 24/7, could be pretty persistent against the lobbyists, and probably would have not any sex scandals either. Well, after that IBM announced that no, they are not putting the candidate for the next presidential elections. But what about in the near future? Would that be impossible scenario? In Finland, we have next presidential elections, 2024, and we know only one thing for sure for that election. Paavo Väyrynen is going to be a candidate. He has announced it already. And I have to say that I would like to see the situation, the argument battle between Paavo Väyrynen, which is a very well-known, long-time Finnish politician, against this robot with artificial intelligence. Probably not in 2024, but maybe later. But anyway, the interface between the technology and the humans, that is blurring, and ethical and moral questions in digital security is going to be more and more important. For example, DARPA. DARPA is the research unit of the Pentagon, which has pretty big budget to develop future technology. So DARPA is already arranging these cyber competitions, but not with the humans. Different computers are fighting against each other, attacking and defending against each other, trying to find the vulnerabilities in the other systems, and then eventually one of these computers win. So computers are fighting against each other. Quite amazing. Maybe in the future, when we are thinking about, for example, cyber defense, there will be like a AI versus AI battles. And in the same plans of the DARPA, this seems to be a trend. How we are able to move the human aside from this development. Because human is pretty often too slow, too stupid, too tired, maybe even, when we are thinking about different solutions. But I think that is very important point for us to raise hands. Because now we are little by little, when the speed of the development of the technology is accelerating, I think we really have to be careful. But is this development driven by technology or humans? Who is having the driver's seat in this development? And my opinion is that we should have also in the future really the human-centric technology development. And humans should be in a really center of this development. And then at the same time, at the moment, when we are talking about cybersecurity or digital security, we need humans. According to the latest researches, there will be a lack of cybersecurity experts in European Union area by 2022, after 3 years. There will be lack of these experts, 350,000. So we need much, much more skilled people in this area. And I have often been asked that, okay, what is the worst cyber weapon what you can have? My answer is very clear. Talented individual. Of course you need technology, organizations, time, resources, for sure. But at the end of the day, at least at the moment, the most valuable asset what you can have in digital security is a talented people. And we have a shortage of these people. Then we should also remember that when we are talking about the digital security and digital world, we have to think about at least these 3 different layers. We pretty often concentrate when we are talking about digital security, we are concentrate this logical layer, meaning the software. We are talking about the zeros and ones. But as a starting point, we really have to remember also from the competitive advantage point of view here in Finland, the importance of the physical layer. So as you probably know, there is a strong and wide physical infrastructure which enables this digital world. And more often in international conferences, when we are talking about these issues, we are actually looking at this map. Sea cables. Approximately 400 sea cable systems which are transmitting data at the moment. Approximately 90% of the data from point 1 to point 2. So more or less all the data that is being transmitted in the world is going through these sea cables or land cables here on the land. And that is the reason why recently, from the security point of view, there are increased discussion about the security of these sea cables. And what happens if they are not working? Intentionally or unintentionally caused. And for example, in the NATO meetings, they are discussing about these issues. So in a way, from the Finland's point of view, here is the lifelines of our digital security and our digital society. Sea cables. So when we are taking care of our digital security, we really have to take care of the physical infrastructure in the sea as well as on the land as well. Because without this physical infrastructure, there aren't a digital society. Then of course, the second layer is the logical layer. We can call it the software layer, like the applications in your smartphones. And if the software is not working properly, there can be pretty nasty consequences. Like this was happened in July. First time ever in the United States, governor of the Louisiana declared a state of emergency in the whole state because of the ransomware attack against 3 school district systems. They were infected with the ransomware, so the computers weren't working. So the response was politically to declare a state of emergency for the whole state for the first time ever. And if the software is not working as it should be, there can be pretty big challenges, like what we have faced in Finland recently as well, in some cities, for example in Lahti, Kokemäki, Pori recently. And one of the challenges here in the software layer, this is from the latest research done by Ponemon Institute and IBM Security, is that okay, even if our systems are breached and they, whoever they are in our systems, how we are able to observe them. And according to this research, in Nordic countries, here in Scandinavia, it takes average 225 days to discover that you have been breached. I would say it's the same situation that someone gets into your home and stays there for 225 days, walking around, looking at what you are doing, looking all your information, and then after 225 days you observe that, hey, you should not be in my home. But then it takes approximately 74 days you to isolate it, to kick it out. Pretty important point. And then it's the cognitive cyber, meaning that how this digital world enables for different actors to affect your mind, affect people's minds, values, opinions. And I would say, putting it in a little bit military terms, the biggest cyber battles will be fought over our thoughts. So this cognitive perspective to cyber is going to be more and more important. And in many countries nowadays, when we are talking about digital security issues, I have noticed that we are more and more talking about the battle of the narratives. And how important it is for the university, for a country, for an organization to tell their own narrative. Because if they are not, someone else is telling your narrative. So this is pretty much, and I presume this is going to be more and more important, this cognitive cyber, and talking about the narratives or algorithms, which you pretty well know already. In a way, we are going forward to the world that who owns or controls algorithms will more and more control our thoughts and opinions. And in a way, these scams, what we are seeing via email, for example, on daily basis here in Finland, I would say this is not so technologically challenging situation. This is more like psychological issue. They are trying to cheat us to give us some information, for example, of ourselves or our credit cards or something else. This is pretty much psychological. And of course, the criminals who are usually motivated by the money, they are nowadays there where the money is, in digital world. It's no use to rob a physical bank, because usually there aren't physical money. And same goes for business. I would say already in Finland, every business is a digital business. Even the local pizzeria here in Otaniemi is a digital business. They have some electric payment system, at least. And pretty often when we are thinking about, and when these companies are thinking about the digital security, they are actually talking about these 3 points. They are thinking about their brand value, business continuity, and then especially the customer's trust. Every business is already a digital business. And what is happening in Finland? Many things in digital security. We have just updated our national cybersecurity strategy. It's not published yet. Maybe after a few weeks it will be public. But this is the document what we are following in Finland, what we are concentrating. The implementation plan of our cybersecurity strategy. And there are 3 main points. And I would say when I'm thinking about digital security also from the company's point of view, it's the 3 main points where they should be concentrating as well. First of all, increasing the general awareness on these issues as well as train the experts in this field. Number 3. Second point, you really have to understand what you are securing, what are the vital functions of your organization or your business. And then you have to do the threat analysis. But the number 1 is actually leadership. Leadership or the lack of the leadership in cybersecurity. And this is something where we have to do better. Not only in Finland, but many, many other countries and companies and organizations as well. I would say that the number 1 digital security challenge in Finland nowadays is the lack of the leadership. Especially from the strategic point of view, but we have been doing some research about it. In a way, we can say that things usually change in 2 ways. Either through leadership or crisis. And if there is no leadership, we are left with crisis. And hopefully that is not something what we want. So that is one reason why here in Aalto University, when we teach security, digital security, security leadership, this is the framework what we are using nowadays. This is the framework. Let me emphasize 2 points of this framework. First of all, in the center of this framework, there is no word security or safety. Trust. Actually, when we are talking about the digital security, we are talking about digital trust. The second point is that around the word trust, there is the circle of the preparation. And we used to think that, okay, first, predict. We can predict what is threatening us, and then we are preventing it. We are building different walls around our systems. And then we think about, okay, now we are secured. That's a little bit like an old paradigm of the cybersecurity. But then the ball game is quite different when your starting point is that, okay, you need those walls. You need to think about the threats and risks and what you are actually protecting. But what about if your starting point is that they are already in? How we live with that? Or they get in? How I am able to observe that malicious activity, hopefully faster than in 225 days, and how I am going to respond for that one. We have to remember that in digital security or in any security, there aren't 100% security. That is a promise that no one can give you. There will be some challenges, problems for a reason or another. So in security, actually, the resilience is emphasized more and more when we are thinking about the future. Bad things will happen. How we live with that? What is our resilience? And trust and security go hand in hand. You can't have one without another. So, ladies and gentlemen, after all this, I would say the biggest trend when we are thinking about the future of the digital security and security is coming to the last. First, we like to think that, okay, there is this physical world. We are living in the physical world at the moment. The world of the atoms. This table is real. And then there is this digital world. It can be mapped like this. And I think it's the human mind that we like to use these dichotomies. Digital, physical, war, peace, internal security, external security, and so on and so on. But the biggest trend what is happening in this field is that these two worlds are coming more and more intertwined. So the key question here is that how we are able to integrate security, cybersecurity or digital security to other security issues. And I would guess that in the near future we will get rid of the term cybersecurity or digital security. We just talk about the security, well, this technology and digital issues are an integral part of that. I know already in some European Union countries, they are planning that they are not anymore writing national cybersecurity strategies. They are writing national security strategies where these digital and technology issues are integrated. And I think that's wise. Or are we really living in the physical world or digital world? Or are we living in those both worlds at the same time? I would say we are. That was my short introduction to digital security. Any final questions, comments? Everybody's quiet. Okay, then we will finish. Thank you, Kati, once again, giving the opening lecture. We will continue next week, same time, same place, same theme. Thank you.